Hi my dear friends, and welcome back to another video. Chapter 2 of the Book of Boba Fett is just under 2 days away. I couldn't be more excited, and I also can't wait to break down that second episode. So for the last few months, we've all been speculating whether Qi'ra is going to appear in the show or not. If we're being honest, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that she will. For example, a lot of fans have spotted that Crimson Dawn's theme can be heard very briefly in the end credits for the show, plus the fact that her story was recently expanded upon in the comic series War of the Bounty Hunters and Crimson Reign. To add to this, Emilia Clarke has no acting credits to her name for the entirety of 2021, which you could blame on the pandemic, but it is odd considering she did work throughout 2020. In my opinion, she could have been filming for the Book of Boba Fett secretly, and on top of all of that, whether they're real or fake, a lot of leakers have claimed with some certainty that she will be in this series. But today, my dear friends, I want to add to this and say flat out that unless this is a misdirect, the Book of Boba Fett may have already told us that Qi'ra is coming. If you guys remember the other day, I made a video about who the Red Assassins are working for. I said there's no doubt they're working for the Mayor, who I believe we're going to see in the next episode. But Crimson Dawn also came up in that discussion because they or their leader could be working in the shadows, only to reveal themselves later in the series. Now these Red Assassins, according to the end credits, are members of a group who go by the name of Nightwind. This is a brand new group that's just been introduced to us and has never before been mentioned in either Legends or canon. But the name Nightwind has appeared before, and this is our clue. In the 1993 role-playing gamebook Supernova, the name Nightwind appears in a reference to a YT-1300 light freighter that was crewed by a band of pirates. And according to this book, Nightwind originates on Corellia, the same homeworld as Qi'ra as we saw in Solo: A Star Wars Story. Now even though Qi'ra has nothing to do with this book, referencing an obscure name from an old Star Wars book in order to name a new group is Filoni's signature way to name things. He did it throughout the Clone Wars and Rebels, and even in The Mandalorian Season 2, he named the new jungle planet of Morak that we see in Chapter 15 after an obscure Legends Mandalorian warrior. So as I say, this is the only known reference in all of Star Wars to the name Nightwind, and I don't think it's a coincidence it happens to be from the same planet as Qi'ra. It's exactly what you'd expect Filoni to name a new criminal group donned by Qi'ra of Corellia. So you might be wondering, why is it called Nightwind? Is it a codename for Crimson Dawn? And what happened to Crimson Dawn more broadly? Well, as I explained in a recent video, in the first issue of Crimson Reign, the mysterious archivist who narrates the entire comic states that Crimson Dawn falls apart by the time of Return of the Jedi. Now, I believe even though Crimson Dawn has fallen apart, Qi'ra survived, probably with a couple of other remnants from the group, and they probably formed a new organization by the name of Nightwind. At this point in the timeline, Qi'ra is a bit older and probably far more powerful. But for anyone who makes the argument that Emilia Clarke is too young to play an older Qi'ra, that is not true. At this point in the timeline, Qi'ra would be 40 years old, and Emilia Clarke is 35, so they're very close in terms of age. Now, as you guys know, as much as I love Emilia Clarke, I'm not the biggest fan of Qi'ra being the big bad of this series. Apart from a couple of incidents in War of the Bounty Hunters, like when she stole Han and Carbonite, as fans, we've not been given any reason to really care about her. Having said that, that could easily turn around in the Book of Boba Fett, but they would have to revamp her character and show us that she's got more power and prowess than when we last saw her much earlier in the timeline in Solo: A Star Wars Story. But overall, I can't imagine fans taking too well to the fact that she could be the big bad of this series. Outside of Solo, a very small percentage of fans actually read the comics, and even then, she's a bit underwhelming as a big bad. I do like her character, and I don't mind if she's in the series as a regular criminal, just not the main bad guy of the series. Unless, of course, they show us the development she's gone through since we last saw her, and how much skill she's acquired. We saw this a little bit in the comics, but they really need to step it up. Now, a couple of you pointed out that the Nightwind Assassin jumpsuits have similar colouring and style to Death Stick.
You wanna buy some Death Sticks?
You don't want to sell me Death Sticks.
No, not that kind of Death Stick. I'm talking about the Dathomirian assassin who worked for Qi'ra and Crimson Dawn, but was also the leader of a secret order who went by the name of Kuhan. This was a top secret group with a multi-tier ranking system including assassins, kidnappers and blackmailers. And I have to wonder, given that Fennec Shand is also one of the galaxy's best assassins, if she knows this group, or maybe even at one point was associated with them. But going back to Deathstick, she contributed to the rise of Crimson Dawn when Darth Maul died, and throughout the Imperial era, she operated as one of the most revered assassins in the business. Now the reason I bring her up, not only with the connection to Qi'ra, is that these Nightwind assassins have very similar red attire with a half mask over their face, and it leads us to wonder if they could be associated in some way with the famous assassin. The truth of the matter is, we simply do not know until the show tells us, and with just 2 days to go until chapter 2, time will tell if either Qi'ra or Deathstick have anything to do with the Book of Boba Fett. I just think the naming of the group has Dave Filoni written all over it, and I wouldn't be surprised if Qi'ra does play into Boba's story once again, as it did in War of the Bounty Hunters. She would make a formidable criminal in this series, just not the big bad, but it could also be a pathway for Han Solo to appear, given that he's her former lover. And with all of the rumours of a Han Solo appearance, I won't be surprised if Qi'ra and Han show up again. So I'm curious to know what you guys think, let me know in the comments down below, but before I go my dear friends, I just want to cover a bit of news. There are a couple of interesting topics that are worth covering to do with the Book of Boba as an extension to what we've been talking about over the last few days. Now this is from Star Wars Newsnet, and they're talking about the initial strong reaction from fans and critics. There seems to be two really strong sides here. You have some fans and critics who absolutely love the series and praise it as a masterpiece. I'm one of these. I loved episode 1. But on the other hand, you have a lot of fans and critics who really take issue with different elements of the show, even though we're just 1 episode in. And I've read a lot of reviews, and what I found, as well as what Star Wars Newsnet are talking about, is that there are similar themes amongst the critics. Now, as I always say, art is subjective. If you love the Book of Boba Fett like I did, that's absolutely great. And if you didn't like it, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions, and we all have different criteria for what makes a great Star Wars project or not. So let's take a look at Star Wars Newsnet and their analysis. The Book of Boba Fett has already premiered its first chapter on Disney+, and after a few days, Rotten Tomatoes has already collected enough critics' reviews to start forming a picture of how the series is being received. As of the posting of this story, 46 critics have submitted their scores, and 86% of them are giving this series a thumbs up. And in my opinion, rightly so, that's amazing. But as they go on to say, there's a little bit of a dip when it comes to audience members. 71% of the 369 audience members that have rated the show are giving it their approval. Now the numbers are generally strong, but in comparison with the initial response to other Star Wars shows, they seem to be a little bit low. The initial response to The Bad Batch and Star Wars Visions was around 94% from critics. Respectively, 96% and 80% of audience members gave those series the thumbs up during the first few days. But it is worth saying, guys, that The Bad Batch Season 1 Episode 1 was unanimously adored, so that would explain the 96% rating. But the audience score for The Bad Batch and Star Wars Visions was generally pretty good by the end. And even though Star Wars Visions dropped all at once, it took a few days to gather a lot of these scores. Now, as I say, the Book of Boba Fett is only 1 episode in, so it's way too early to look at these ratings and make any sort of assessment. But I will say, as some of you probably have noticed, some of these critics are being particularly harsh. I think it was the Times that said that Temuera Morrison has no emotional range, and when it comes to story points, I think the slow burn feel worked for some people, and then of course you have the flashbacks, which I adored, but some people thought they dragged on for too long. Star Wars Newsnet finish off by saying the numbers will probably go up for the Book of Boba. Over 90% of the critics and audience members liked the first and second seasons of The Mandalorian, and just like for season 2, the ratings probably will go up as the season progresses for the Book of Boba Fett, and I don't think it helps that Robert Rodriguez was really hyping up the series beforehand, so we all expected big surprises right from the start. They're definitely coming, my dear friends, but patience is key. Chapter 2 drops in just 2 days' time. We have so many questions. Hopefully some of them are going to be answered. It's been the longest week since episode 1, and I just can't wait to plow on with this series. As always, guys, I will be doing my full episode breakdowns and all of that good stuff right here on the channel. All the analysis, my review, Easter eggs, and so on. But otherwise, my dear friends, that brings us to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new, and a massive welcome if you are. And also, why not consider becoming a patron? The link is down there in the description, and you get access to videos that are not found here on YouTube, access to our Discord server, and so much more. But until the next one, my dear friends, I'm Star Wars Meg, and I'll see you all in the next one.